All right, let's bring you back home now with this discussion. The kidnapping and murder trial of anti-apartheid activists, also known as the Cosas 4, will resume tomorrow at the High Court in Johannesburg. Some background on the story for you. On the 15th of February in 1982, Eustace Madikela, Peter Matabane, Fanyana Nhlapo were killed and Zandisile Musi was injured. Christian Siebert Rorich and Tlolomedi Ephraim Mfalakpizza are all linked to the deaths, I believe, along with two other members of the security branch as well. At the time, the accused were working for state security and they were not granted amnesty at the TRC. Let's unpack the story further. We're joined this afternoon by the Executive Director of the Foundation for Human Rights, Dr. Zaid Kimmie. It's great to have you on. Thanks very much indeed for giving us your time. So the case is meant to begin tomorrow, but it has been quite a delay, hasn't it? I mean, we can talk about delays going many, many years back, but the indictments were issued in 2021.
Yes, you'd recall that this was one of the cases, because the accused were not granted amnesty, that was handed over to the NPA for prosecution. So there was a long period of almost 18 years between when that case was handed over and when the indictments were finally filed. So that delay was due, we believe, to political interference in the prosecutions. And the subsequent delay has largely been because the state has refused to pay the costs, the legal costs of the accused, who were policemen at the time that they committed these crimes. And so it's, for the family, it's been a long and arduous process of ensuring that the state lived up to its responsibilities, both to prosecute and to cover the costs of the defense for the accused in this case.
Yeah. And I mean, is that what you're saying when you talk about political interference in a way? The fact that the state wouldn't pay the legal fees? I mean, do we not have legislation or guidelines in place on how such cases should unfold? As you say, these were police officers at the time of these murders.
Yeah, we believe, the family and their legal team believe, that the precedent had been set and the matter had been resolved in another case, also involving an apartheid-era killing, Nokuthula Simelane, where the state, after litigation, was instructed to pay the cost of the accused. Why the South African police in this case did it, until they were again forced, the family was forced to take legal action, and eventually they acceded and they've agreed to pay the costs. But that further delay of 4 or so years could easily have been avoided. Yeah. We're not saying that that was political interference. The prior delay, of course, we have yet to fully understand why that delay occurred.
So how do we resolve this? Because surely when it comes to these apartheid-era cases, we can't repeatedly go to court for the same issue. For example, the police not wanting to pay the legal fees of the accused.
Yes, that's certainly our position, and we hope that the matter has now finally been resolved. But of course, we'll wait until the next time. Perhaps the South African police will lead us through the same song and dance and delay the prosecution. All that matters, the effect of this is, of course, that some of the accused die, and prosecutions aren't possible. So it's not for me to explain, or for the family to explain why those decisions were taken. Those are questions which should likely be posed to the South African police and the political leadership. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it does give the sense, doesn't it, that there is a lack of political will to prosecute these apartheid-era cases. Dr. Kimmie, I'm just telling our viewers that at the bottom right-hand side of the screen, these are live visuals coming to us from Luthuli House. We're going to take you to that briefing in just a few moments, but essentially, leaders have been meeting with the Council of Muslim Clerics from around the world. They're on a Thanksgiving mission to acknowledge the ANC and the country's solidarity with the people of Palestine. We're going to take you there live in a moment, but Dr. Kimmie, let's continue with our discussion in the meantime. You know, you mentioned political interference, and I wanted to ask you, what did you mean by that? Like, what form does that take? Well, there's a lot of speculation involved in exactly what form it took, what sort of instructions were given to what people, what the families, many of the families and their legal teams and supporters have been asking for, is that we need a commission of inquiry. We know that the decision to prosecute probably required political instruction, and it needed officials to accede to those instructions. Then I don't think there are any good people in this equation. What we need to understand is, why did it happen? How did it happen? And how do we prevent this sort of thing happening in future? It may not be cases with the same historical importance. It can be some other case where someone decides, instead of following the rule of law, we'll decide not to prosecute, and everyone will look the other way. And that's the sort of thing, in the end, that we'd like to prevent.
Yeah, certainly.